10, 9, ignition sequence start, 6.
Hello, and welcome to Rocket Fuel, your daily update of everything that's happening in the rocket pool community. My name is Wack. Today is December 12th, and we're going to start with news here of the votes that are open at the moment. So they've been open for a few days, and we've almost hit quorum. I was really hoping that we would hit quorum by the time we started recording, but sadly that's not the case. So there's 4 votes ongoing. For one of them we have hit quorum, which is RPIP 31. RPIP 32 is 98.38%. RPIP 33 is 98.46%, and RPIP 35 is 98.64%. So if we have a quick look at these votes, we can see something interesting has happened, and we're going to talk about that a little bit. So if you have a look at the votes, the for vote is 80%, the abstain vote is 20%. So that's for RPIP 35, and it's the same kind of situation again for RPIP 33 here, which is about 20% abstain, 80% for, with very few people against. Here for RPIP 32, there's 0 people against, but it's about 80-20 split with abstain. And once again with RPIP 31, there's nearly 1% vote against, but we've got around 80% for and around 20% abstaining. So let's have a look at the abstentions, and those are the same in each case over here. So we see that Val was one of the people who's abstaining, and actually his comment and my comment for this vote got switched around for some reason. So Val says, support voting abstain to get attention on the process. We should vote ahead of feature freezes, audits, community team discussions ongoing. And another big person who abstained was Noshua. That's just cutting the bottom of the screen, but he has 250 votes, and Noshua saying, bad process. See my posts in the RPIP 35 thread on the forum. So what's happening is Val and Noshua are both kind of signaling that they're not happy with the process, and that this is ongoing discussion, and there's some subtle differences in their positions, but that's kind of the crux of it. Val basically just wants there to be more attention in the process. He does support the changes, and Noshua as well is saying that the process itself is bad. And let's have a look at the forum, because that's where Noshua says that there's some discussions going on. So we covered this on Rocket Fuel a few weeks ago, and where there was some discussions about what it means to bring an RPIP and what you expect will happen with the RPIP passing. Or like what the chances of it are passing. So Langer's, this was a discussion about RPIP 35 because it was added quite last minute and it wasn't something that was really discussed much before. But Langer says, from our perspective, RPIP 30 was not certain to be ratified. So here, Noshua says, and what made you certain that the Houston RPIPs would? From my perspective, there are fine things to do, but there are other things that are more pressing. I haven't had the opportunity to express that view, and even at this point, the only option is given is to delay Houston RPIPs. So by inverting the process, you are influencing the outcome of votes pretty heavily. So what Noshua was trying to say here is that by having everything ready and then putting these things that are going into Houston, which is feature frozen and ready to be audited, by putting it in, putting it at RPIP at the last second and sending it to vote in the last, basically just as it's either ready to go to audit, has already gone to audit as it is right now and it's being voted on. Then if the community says no, then what happens, right? Like if for some reason, people don't want that change to happen, then what will happen to the audit that's taking place? What will happen to Houston upgrade? So what Noshua was saying here is that the influence of the updates is and voting is very strongly influenced by the order of events. So then this is Langer's replying to some of Waldorf's comments about RPIP 30 and about how that was or wasn't already decided. And there was some discussion there. But in replying to Noshua, Langer says, feedback taken on board, we will start the RPIP process much earlier so the community have plenty of time to co-develop and indicate a priority. So then that was the RPIP, and Waldorf said that looks solid and they reviewed it. So here patches, because people delegate their votes to him. So he's announcing how he's voting. He says, I'm voting in favor. Predictability in the time access is an important attribute of ODAO duties, not just for the nodes that want to top up to minimum collateral before the end of the interval, but it makes duty logic more consistent across the board. And then this is the comment he says. He says, the team has been, in my opinion, sufficiently informed of the reservations about the process here, so I won't let that stand in the way this time. So I think it's really good that people have come out strongly and kind of indicated their preference about voting in this situation. And it's good that Val and Noshua are making a statement by being by voting as abstain. And I think it makes sense. And I think that, I've covered the dissatisfaction with the process, the way it was used leading into the Houston upgrade numerous times on the show. And I think, next time we will all do it better. And I'm really hoping that, and it's already looking better, right? Because Langers and other team members are coming into the tokenomics discussions about what we should be doing, and those discussions are already happening now. And I don't think anyone is coding anything at the moment. So the really good thing is that they're involved in a much earlier stage, and we as a community are kind of aware of what's going on. So I'm really hoping that when it comes to the RPIPs that will be going into Saturn or any other upgrades, we'll be seeing that will be the fruit of much better discussions that are started much earlier. So I'm really happy about that. Okay, let's go back to the Discord, and here there were Invis says, oh, you guys are just spamming that across all votes by saying the messaging that this is a bad process and that things need to happen. And Noshua kind of explained the comments here, saying this is the relevant post, and then there's a link to the from. Actually, I didn't even cover the relevant post, but that was this one. Yeah, it said, Noshua said this shouldn't go to vote. The team has implemented this change and decided to include it in the Houston upgrade before even writing the RPIP. In reality, there are two separate paths for protocol changes, RPIP and team initiated. We shouldn't muddy the water by voting on RPIPs that already made it through the second path. This is the reason why RPIP 35 makes it to Houston, while RPIP 30 doesn't make it, despite being more impactful, having loads more community support, being of a similar implementation difficulty, and being written multiple months earlier. It's important that PDAO is clear about set of expectations for RPIP authors. So that was some of Noshua's explanation. He says, basically, I think it's bad to build something and send it to audit before even starting the voting process, and at the same time not implement something that's already been voted on. Getting people to write RPIPs is hard enough, and we don't need to make it worse by treating it like a kid's table. And I think that makes a lot of sense, and that's a really good perspective. And I really do think that the team members, and Langers has indicated strongly that he is receptive to the criticism that they received, and it's something that they want to make sure is better next time. And I think there's evidence that is already showing that it's getting better before we go forward. So I voted in favor of all of these votes. I think I covered that last week, but I was, had some of these criticisms in mind when I was doing that. I didn't realize that there was going to be like a coordinated effort from Noshua and Valdorf to, make these signals. But I think it's a powerful statement, and I think it makes sense that they're doing it. Okay. Let's go to Twitter here with another update from the Rocket Pool Twitter account. And, I know I said this last week as well when we covered these, but I really like the work that that Mav is doing here, because I think for a long time the Rocket Pool Twitter account was kind of a barren wasteland, and now with these threads that are coming up a few times a week, I really think that going into a bull run, as more eyes might come onto Rocket Pool, one of the first places people will go is to the Twitter account, and I think what's happening is that having this rich history of like really good information will just draw a lot of attention before people kind of go and want to find out more information about them. So, first of all, this is a huge seal of approval for these threads, but just the content of the threads is really good as well. So here, it says Rocket Pool is continuing to be deeply integrated across the growing Base ecosystem, providing more options for users. Read on to find out how Base, Coinbase Wallet and Coinbase Ventures are all supporting Ethereum's decentralized liquid staking protocol. So let's have a look to see what it says. It says you can natively liquid stake with Rocket Pool directly from Coinbase Wallet alongside Coinbase's own CBETH, which is really cool. Just a few clicks will effortlessly convert your ETH into RETH, which automatically accrues staking rewards over time and can be used in multiple DeFi applications. Then it goes on to say RETH was one of the first liquid staking tokens available on built on Base on Coinbase Layer 2. Once you've got RETH in your wallet, you can bridge it over from Ethereum mainnet to enjoy Base's high speeds and low fees. And then it goes on to say, as a permissionless protocol, anyone can be a node operator with Rocket Pool and help secure Ethereum. That includes Coinbase Ventures, who are running a mini pool validators with Unit 410 as part of the order as well. So it says, join the Rocket Pool Discord community to learn more, and then there's a link to the Discord. So this is really cool. Then Moonwell kind of got in on the action saying do more with your RETH and build on Base with Moonwell. So that is a DeFi protocol that is on Base, and they have RETH integrated as one of their tokens. And then there's other people asking about validating on Base, but no, you can't do that because it's on mainnet. But this is really great. I think these threads, and they're quite frequent. Like, so this one was about Base, and then we had one about the Grants Management Committee on the 7th, and then we also had this one that's still more about the grant stuff. And we had a community info. It's just this, consistent branding is like really cool. So even the community calls have like the similar kind of like image that goes with it. And then like any kind of landmark that's hit, you see the 14,000 RETH minted thing going on over here. This smart node stack version 1.1.11.1 that has the same kind of imaging as well. And then here we have another thread about the smoothing pool, which was on December 4th. So it seems like every 3 or 4 days, or basically a couple of times a week, Mav/someone else is working on putting these threads together, and that is really cool because the engagement is quite decent too. Like, this one's got a couple of hundred likes, 65 retweets. If we have a look at the ones bounties committee, that one wasn't as well received, but this one here on the smoothing pool, 78 likes, 21 retweets. There's some really good information there. So getting people to see it is really nice. Oh, that one about the smart node stack, this one, I think it was the first or second one that had 100 likes and 37 retweets. So I think we as a community can keep our eyes open for these threads and then just give them a boost with our retweets and with our engagement on social media. So one of the things that we can do is give it a like, of course, and give it a retweet. But one of the most valuable things you can do is just leave a comment of support saying this is really cool, I really like this, and that kind of engagement with those tweets is really beneficial for the visibility of the tweet increasing. So that's definitely something to keep in mind. Okay, let's go back to the Discord now, and here something really interesting happened where this validator 0xDD FACEE3 got a block proposal for 52.72 ETH. So this person was someone who was not in the smoothing pool, and they got this really amazing proposal, and everyone's like, wow. And then Lutro said, this is why I'm not in the smoothing pool. And this person, not you, says has only one LEB8 validator. So they got around 35% of this amount, which is about 18 ETH, which means they can set up 2 more validators potentially, depending on how much RPL they have, which is absolutely amazing. Because as a ETH validator, you get around, you get 25% of the 25% of the reward, because you have 25% of the validator, but then you also get 14% commission from node operators, and I think it works out to be something around 35% of the rewards go to the node operator in total, which is really nice. So people start talking about how it might be the time to gamble on the bull market. And because we're seeing more and more of these blocks coming through, where we're seeing that there's like this huge increase in big blocks coming through, and even the smoothing pool this month is doing really well. So the numbers technically work out as that you're still slightly net positive in the smoothing pool on longer timeline, but on a long enough timeline it's pretty much equal. But what happens is, staking will probably be this MEV stuff will probably be finished in a couple of years, and maybe 3 or 4 years, before MEV burn starts to happen and stuff like that, and that will happen before you're likely to get a lottery block. So yes, it does make sense to be in the smoothing pool, and I am in the smoothing pool, and a whole lot of people are in the smoothing pool because it makes sense. However, what Lutro says here is, there's a bit of a rush to playing the lottery, and it's not like you have to do anything. You just keep your validator running, right? And blocks that come in, there's a potential that you'll get a good block. The chances, of course, are extremely low, but that's the situation. So Halululo says, this person started staking less than 6 months ago. Really hope they're going to use it for two more mini pools. I saw something that said the person sent it to Coinbase, but I'm not sure where I saw that information. So this was a whole lot of discussion that was going on about that, and I think that was really, really interesting to see. But what I found more interesting was this discussion that kind of started with Invis saying, fun fact, if someone steals from the smoothie pool, it will be marked as a large mini pool proposal, but the node operator would have a smoothie symbol next to the address. So here, like for example, this bot, there was another proposal that someone got for 4.1 ETH just a little while ago. So what Invis is saying, that it would come through as a large proposal, not a smoothing pool proposal. However, the node operator's name would have the smoothing thing next to it. And he says, don't steal. So Patches says that stealing MEV is too complicated for most people. We're protected, and that's security through complexity. So then there were people talking about stealing MEV, and I said, so how can stealing happen now? Asking for Stader. So I was just yeah. So Patches says, I'm sworn not to explain in detail, but you do have control of your fee recipient. That said, it's a bad idea to steal a 0.05 ETH proposal because you get exited. But I don't know what Patches means here by you get exited. I think he means you get punished because there's no way to exit, but there is a way to punish. Patches says, and stealing selectively well, that's the part that takes skill. Nosha says, I don't think Wack is actually asking for Stader. And yeah, I was going to reply to that Noshua thunk as well. And I was like, oh, so you have to like make bots and stuff, like to kind of, I guess what they do is they monitor, when your proposal is coming and what the mempool is looking like. That's just my like layman's understanding of it. So I kind of asked a few more questions. It says, because you can't be watching the block building and front running, changing your free recipient. And Patches says, it doesn't work like that. Your free recipient is registered ahead of time with the relay. It can't do last minute games. So I said, I guess you could just set it to steal and hope for the best. And Patches says, that's certainly one strategy. And I said, I always thought it was some last minute effery where you'd get a big block and change stuff before the block was proposed. Patches said, I mean, there is some last minute effery, just not with the fee recipient. And I said, ooh, and I used the taking notes Pepe, even though I have no idea how to do this or have any desire to do this. But and then Nosha says, you're getting pretty close to explaining it. And Patches says, yeah, this is close enough. And I said, I won't ask any more questions. I got what I needed for rocket fuel. And then Ghost explained it all. So he says, like, in your smart node stack, you just put rocket pool wallet steal, and then that's how you do it. So he spilled all the beans. So that was a interesting little conversation. I actually learned nothing but interesting ideas nonetheless. And finally, we're going to finish today's episode with this update, with this question basically that came in from Landsman, who works with OpenUX, and they're doing the node operator analysis right now for Rocket Pool. And he says, curious about onboarding, how onboarding as Rocket Pool node operator works for people who are not fluent in English. Are there any resources to make it more available? And Invis says, use Google Translate. Armana says you could possibly post translation bounties with the GMC. And Invis says nobody tried that before, and the GMC never made a statement about translations ever. So this was actually a thing that came about over a year ago, because one of the first set of grants that we got were about translations. There were so many questions about like who would review the quality of the work, how would we know that they did a good job, because not many people would potentially speak that language. there were a lot of administrative aspects that go around having an a translation service that the GMC was not at the time capable of dealing with at all. And maybe, we might be able to deal with it now, but like, I don't know where that where that stands. So Landsman says, that's interesting. I'm comfortable in English myself, but curious how much of a limiting factor it might be for Rocket Pool's market size. It says it is for the OpenUX report. It's for the OpenUX report on node operator user experience. And then Brent says, I guess it shouldn't be surprising, but it's pretty cool that oh no, sorry, that's something else. Yeah, so that was when the big block came through. So the discussion kind of like changed. In this is we can't provide support to them, so it would be hit a wall as soon as they run into any issue. Also, I was argued that most of our audience is familiar with some English at least. So Ramana says, I'm happy to provide non-English support. So, the Rocket Pool Discord is all English. There's no other language channels in there, and there's definitely no other language support because we short on moderators, and it's really difficult to get into multi-language moderation and support. And then Invis says here, like, well, no, that's just mocking Ramana. But Landsman comes back and he says, I suppose at least we could set clear expectations about what you might expect throughout the process. This could be especially valuable to a non-technical or semi-technical user who might feel insecure about what going through the onboarding as a non-fluent English speaker entails. And then if this is a non-techie or semi-technical, they'll run into issues at some point. And if they don't know English, we simply can't help them the way we can in English. Translated docs in their case would give them a false sense of support for their language, which is a really good point. And then Anosha says, why can't we support other languages than English? And Ramana says, I think we actually can. Noshua says, for some languages for sure, support is only coming from the community anyway, and we're international to some extent. So, there's a bunch of German people who are frequently in support, maybe other languages as well. I think there are a couple of French people around, so it might be possible to start offering support in those languages, potentially. But then that brings up here, and Staker says, accepting other languages will only make the server more susceptible to scams, as you have less eyes checking those messages. And Noshua says, right now we only have one volunteer doing moderation. I think the way to deal with scams is taking moderation seriously. So this was like a whole discussion that kind of started from here. I thought this was a really, really interesting discussion about finding the balance between opening the protocol to other people and getting moderation right and all the services right. But you can go and read the whole discussion, but I thought it was a really good one, which is why I covered it. So Landsman here said, also English skills are not a binary thing. I think this could be a perceived concern for people who speak quite okay English, so just some support and expectation management could go a long way in enabling people. So it's really cool that these ideas are being thought about, and I'm really curious to see what OpenUX come up with in their report. But maybe there'll be some really good actionable things in there. Not sure. He says, I'm thinking of a few popular languages here. I feel like half the support regulars speak German or Spanish, for example. Epinef says we could have a Mandarin channel, and I'm sure we'd have enough members to provide accurate questions, but who will be patrolling it or checking for accuracy or making sure that Mandarin speakers aren't accepting DMs? Ramana finally let us know what language he can offer support in, and that's Australian. So anyway, then that kind of became a whole nother discussion and then maybe French and Mandarin too. So yeah, but this is what it comes out to, right? This says Kron is the one volunteer. The team is doing moderation on the side and isn't very present most of the day because of course they're asleep right now. So yeah, well, maybe they're waking up soon, but yeah, this is the situation, and this is how we are finding ourselves. But maybe if we get good information on how we can grow Rocket Pool through adding more languages with the OpenUX research, maybe the GMC or others can take that more seriously and start funding it. But anyway, on that note, I'm going to end today's episode. Thank you all for watching, listening, and being part of the Rocket Fuel community, and I will see you all tomorrow. Bye.